Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Better Letters, where I try and teach you to play Better Scrabble. Today I'm actually not going to play a game. I've got the Scrabble Go app in the background there, you can see it right there. But I'm not going to log in and I'm not going to play a game. What I'm going to do instead is give you a quick book review of a Scrabble book, which I have recently bought and read. And I'm going to give you a book review to see, to help you decide whether you should buy it or not. I bought this off Amazon. It wasn't expensive. It came obviously very quickly. It's one of these that appears to be perhaps printed by Amazon on demand. Or is it? It's sometimes hard to tell. Usually in the back it says printed by Amazon, but it doesn't say that. It's something else. It could actually still be a print on demand one though. Now this book is very interesting. Okay, so firstly the credit obviously goes to Michael Goldman, who wrote the book back in the 1980s apparently. I wasn't previously aware of this book until I just came across it on Amazon while looking for something else. And I do have quite a few books that talk about Scrabble strategy and tactics, and it's just interesting to read what different players do and what they prioritize in a game of Scrabble. And you can certainly learn from these players. Now, Michael Goldman, as you can see there, this book was first published in 1983. Michael Goldman turns out to be one of the founders of the London Scrabble League, which has been going for many decades. And I don't think any of the original players in the league are still alive today or still playing today. Some of them might still be alive, but they're probably not playing anymore. So it's been going for a long, long time. And this Michael Goldman was one of the founders. I believe there's one other, Reg Lever, I think his name is. Now it says here, this edition published in 2020 by Merlin Goldman and Liana Goldman. Now those are the kids. Those are the son and daughter of Michael Goldman. So what they've done is they've taken this original book, or this book originally published some 40 odd years ago, and updated it slightly for the modern, era. But actually, after reading through it, they haven't really updated it very much, if at all, really. It's pretty much just been republished. It's a good book. It's worth reading. However, I will say that it has times have moved on since this book was published. As it says on the front there, master the open board method and score higher. Now, the open board method was very much about, it wasn't necessarily about winning a game of Scrabble against your opponent. It was about jointly scoring a very high amount of points. This was in the early days of competitive Scrabble. Scrabble itself, just a tiny little history lesson here, the game was invented back in the 1930s in the Great Depression by an American called Alfred Butts. And he invented the game, as I say, back in the Depression, in the 1930s, and I'm not sure what happened between the 1930s and when Scrabble kind of went mainstream in terms of club and tournament play, I think in about the 1970s. And this book was published in the early days of club and tournament play. So perhaps people were still discovering the best way of playing competitive Scrabble. So this book came out around then. So the reason I say that is because some of the tips in the book are probably not considered best practice these days, best way of playing. However, having said that, the book still has a lot of good tips and techniques to improve your game. So it's worth getting if you do want to improve your game, it's perhaps worth getting. Although I might say that there are actually better books out there. Of course, the what's allowed in Scrabble has moves along quite rapidly. Every 2 or 3 years, there's an update to the official Scrabble dictionary. And some of this book was published in a time when even the word QI or chi was not yet allowed. So getting rid of your Q at the time this book was initially published was quite difficult, harder than it is today. These days we have a number of short words that don't have a U in it, don't have a U in them, to get rid of your Q much more easily. So this book predates a lot of that. I'll just, I think the best thing to do is, I'm not going to go through the book in any great detail, but I'm just going to show you some of the things that I've bookmarked. Throughout the book, there are these sort of bold, highlighted little extracts, little quotes, which capture neatly a key concept to improve your game. And I've just highlighted about 3 or 4 of them. I've just, bookmarked 3 or 4 of them. Now, this one here: express a bias towards the top left quarter of the board from the inception of the game. So what that means, right from the beginning, what tends to happen in Scrabble is that the game, because words must be played to read from left to right and from top to bottom, just like in a crossword, what tends to happen is that a lot of the play tends to gravitate towards the bottom right-hand corner of the board. And if you're not careful, or if the 2 players playing a game together are not careful, they can find themselves playing in just half of the board, split diagonally from the bottom left to the top right. So that can happen, that does happen, and it limits the game somewhat. So what he's saying here is that where you can, play up towards the top left quarter of the board, just to open up your options a bit, and to make the game more interesting and more enjoyable. Okay, so that's a good tip. Another page that I highlighted, would like to highlight, is this tip here. Right, so as I've said once or twice in the demonstration games I've been playing against Zoe, S's and blanks in the game they're like gold dust. You should try and get S's or get blanks, and certainly when you do get one on your rack, hold on to it, or try to hold on to it until you've got a bonus, like a 7-letter word, or a word that uses up all 7 of your letters in one go. So it could be an 8-letter word, or even a 9. And of course you get a 50-point bonus for that on top of the actual score that you get for your tiles. So an S helps you immeasurably towards that. So what he's saying here is an S should not be used for a score of less than 30 points. Okay, so normally you try and keep an S until you get a bonus word, which means you get 50 or more. But sometimes you can and should use your S, especially if you've got more than one on your rack. But try and get at least 30 points for it, just to make it worthwhile. The same goes for a blank. However, you should really aim to get somewhat more than that. And he points out here, a blank should never be used for less than 50 points. Okay, that's good advice. So generally hang on to your blank until you can make a bonus with it. Of course, you'll get 50 points just for playing all 7 of your letters at one time. Occasionally, though, you're not going to use your blank for a bonus. You might just use it to play a Z or an X or a J or a Q, for example. And if you play that well and you use your blank to help you get, say, 50 or 60 points with that, with those letters, then do so. but generally, yeah, don't burn a blank. Certainly, what I see sometimes, in playing sort of random players on Scrabble Go, is that some of the, perhaps less experienced players will just burn a blank for like 9 points, 10 points, 18 points, or something like that. I think, these people obviously of the opinion that, well, the blank doesn't have any points face value, so it can't be worth much. Let's get rid of it. Well, no, it couldn't be further from what you should do is exactly the opposite. Treat it as if it's worth. Treat it like a joker in a game of cards, where the joker can be used for any old card, any card that you want to get a full house, for example, or whatever card game you're playing. So there's that one. That's 3 tips. There's one more that I've pointed out, which is, what's it say? As a rule, one should discard any letter which is duplicated on one's rack, despite the number of words that contain 2 of the same letter. Okay, so as a general rule of thumb, when you have racks, when you have a rack and the various turns that you have during the game, you normally get about a dozen turns in a game of Scrabble, maybe 14, 15, depends. And of course, if you've got like 2 T's or, certainly 2 I's or 3 A's or, more than one of a given letter, you should try and get rid of that on that turn, unless you can make a bonus with it, or unless it's, unless you've got a word that has 2 T's in it, or 2 R's, or 2 L's, or whatever the case might be. But as a general rule of thumb, yeah, play off your doubles and work towards getting those elusive bonuses. So that's it, really. There's a few other tips in the book which will worth. What's this one here? Do not give up after 2 or 3 mental shuffles. Persevere a little longer. Okay, so that's in terms of finding a bonus on your rack. They won't always jump out at you immediately. Sometimes you've got to shuffle letters around a bit to make common prefixes or suffixes like ing or pre at the beginning, or co, or east, or est or ist at the back, miss or dis at the front, or un or in at the front. Just shuffle them around. Don't be afraid to shuffle your tiles around until you find something that is a bonus or close to a bonus. Anyway, that's about where I'll stop. So today is just a book review. I'm not going to play a game. Stay tuned to this channel though, because I will be playing more games against Zoe quite soon. And in the meantime, if you want to improve your game, you could do worse than buy this book. And of course, the London Scrabble League. Yes, there we go. 1971, Michael Goldman co-founded the London Scrabble League shortly after the inaugural National Scrabble Championship. Okay, so yeah. So in the UK at least, sort of tournament level Scrabble really got going in 1971. Michael Goldman, yeah. Of course, the London Scrabble League is still going today. I'm actually a member of it. I do play in it, although just online these days. If you're in London or in the vicinity of London and you'd like to join, then by all means do. We're always looking for more players, more members, and it really is a lot of fun. So there's various formats you can get involved in, and that's really it for today. So there we have it. Play Better Scrabble by Michael Goldman, available from your favourite bookseller. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.